morning, 8th grade. Welcome to week 6, day 1, April 26th. April 27th. We are continuing with solving systems of equations using substitution. I want to mention that you can expect to have an evidence of student mastery on Friday. So if you haven't done so already, I would start preparing for that as well as anything new that we learned this week. There is an announcement that I want to bring to your attention. You will see this on all of your Regents classes. It's in regards to a concern that has come up between the teachers and administration about the growing problem with late assignments. So as a Regent student, you need to keep up with the assigned work. And starting this week, if you post your assignment after the scheduled day, you will not receive full credit for that assignment. And this will apply to both classwork and assessments. Of course, we understand that you may have legitimate reasons for not getting your work in time. And for that, it would be excused as long as you contact your teacher and just let them know what your issue is so that we can make arrangements with you to make the assignment up. We know that remote learning is not the most ideal way of learning new topics, but it is necessary that you continue to do your assignments on your own. We're noticing a number of identical responses, including incorrect responses, and hope to not see this continue, especially since we brought it to your attention. You've all been working very hard, and I've been impressed with most of your work and effort and hope to see that it continues. And please note that this does not necessarily apply to all of you, but I am expecting to see these issues resolved for the future. Okay, so just wanted to mention that before moving forward. And you'll see how we're going to be modifying some of our classwork to avoid these issues from occurring. So I'm going to click on the classwork tab. You'll notice we have an agenda for week 6 here. So please be mindful that if you're ever wondering what to expect for the week, it's all lined out for you in this outline here. Okay. I'm going to go to week 1, day 1. Today we are focusing on substitution, where one of the equations will be in y equals mx plus b form, and the other will be in standard. So I sent most of you this link on Friday to review before we got into today's lesson. Most of you, I think, received it from me through the private message in the feedback from Friday's assignment. And if you did not submit that before I signed off on Friday, I sent it to you through your pupil path. So I hope that most of you looked at it. If not, take a look at it now. I think it's only about 3 or 4 minutes, so it might help you in addition to the lesson that we have posted for today. So the warm-up is a substitution example. I'm not going to spend time going through that because at this point I already have modeled multiple examples like this, and you have practiced them as well. Since they are both equal to y, you can take one of them and substitute it in for the value of y and rewrite your equation. You can solve like we normally do when we have variables on both sides by applying the inverses. And then once you have solved for x, you go back to the system, pick either of the equations, and you substitute 2 in place of x to then find the y value. And then your last step is to write that solution as x comma y. Okay? So as mentioned before, we're going to be substituting, but now our equations are not going to both be in slope-intercept form. One will be in that form and the other will be in standard. So the link has been provided again for you to review before moving forward. And I'm going to model this first example for you. So we have y equals x plus 3, and then we have 2x plus 2y equals 38. So notice that my top equation is telling us that this is what y equals. So if y equals x plus 3, then I'm going to circle x plus 3, and I'm going to replace y with x plus 3, because if that's what y equals, then I'm going to substitute that in, because by doing that, I can now solve for the value of x. And once I know x, then I can also solve for the value of y. So when we substitute x plus 3 in place of y, just make sure that you use parentheses, because otherwise you wind up missing things and your calculation gets incorrect. So I'm going to show you how you do that. So we're going to start by writing 2x, because that's not affected, plus 2. And now I'm not going to write y. I'm going to put parentheses, x plus 3, close the parentheses, and then finish the equation equals 38. Okay, so we still started off the same way by circling and drawing our arrow where we are placing that x plus 3. We're replacing it for y because that's what y equals. We rewrite our equation, and then we follow our same steps. So you distribute if possible, which it is. So we're going to do this distribution, and I'll rewrite my equation. So 2x will come down. 2 times x is a positive 2x. 2 times positive 3 is a positive 6, equals 38. So now I don't have variables on both sides like I did last time, but I do have them on the same side. So when they're on the same side, we should remember that we can combine like terms. When we combine our like terms, you always include the sign in front of the number to know what integer that is. So we have 2x plus 2x. Those are like terms because they both have x. We're going to combine them to get 4x. And then we'll bring everything else down. So now we have 4x. I'm going to bring down plus 6. Bring down equals 38. And now we have a regular two-step equation to solve. So I'm going to inverse plus 6. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. We always want to keep it even, so we do it to both. 6 minus 6 will cancel. I'm left with 4x equals 38 minus 6 gives us 32. And then to solve for x, we divide by 4 on both sides. 4 over 4 equals 1. I could just write it as x instead of 1x. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. So we have now solved for our x in our solution. Okay? So there's all of the work for that. You'll see that it's also included in the lesson. So if I'm going too fast for any of you, it's right there along with the steps. And now that we solve for x, we do the same thing we did before. So you look at your two equations and pick the easier one. Obviously, I think this one's easier. Y equals x plus 3. So I'm going to write that here. Okay, I know that x equals 8. So I'm going to plug that in here to solve for y. So my equation is now y equals 8 and then plus 3. And we would know that 8 plus 3 is 11. So now we've solved for our y. Our y is 11. And then same as before, we have to write it as a solution. So my solution will be 8, 11, x, y. Okay? So that's how you would solve a system like this, when one is in slope-intercept form and one is not. You're going to take whatever the value is. So if this was y, you substitute in the expression for y. If this was x, then you take the expression and you substitute in for x, okay? When you substitute in, make sure you use parentheses. In most cases, there usually is distribution involved, so you'll do that. If you notice that there are like terms on the same side of the equation, then you combine like terms. If you remember, I'm using the steps that we did in class. If you remember, we're doing D, C, I, distribute, combine, inverse, inverse. Okay, so we combine, we solve our equation, we get x. We pick the easier of the two equations, which would be this one, rewrite it, plug in what we found for x, solve for y, and write our final solution. Okay, So if you go through the lesson, there are a bunch more. Here are your steps that I used while I modeled it. So you have those as well. Here's another example where y is given. So we're going to substitute in place of y. It's worked out for you in the lesson. It goes through the steps so that you guys can become very comfortable with it. Sometimes you might get a rational value for x. That's okay. I don't want that to scare any of you, but it usually is a terminating decimal, just as a heads up. And then here's just one I wanted to have you guys look at, where they're giving us x equals instead of what we're used to seeing y equals. But you're going to do the same thing. If this is what x equals, then we're going to circle this and we're going to substitute it in for x. So it would look something like that. Okay? See how it's now in place of x, and we put parentheses, and then guess what? We're going to do the same thing. Distribute, combine, inverse, inverse. You'll get one of the values, and then we'll solve for the other so that you can write your solution. Okay? So again, there's more examples. Make sure you look through them before going to your Google form, because there is a unique example. This one, something very interesting happens here. The one that has negative 6x plus 3y equals negative 12. And I'll know if you look through the lesson by seeing what is so unique about this particular example. Okay, so I'm going to X out of this to just explain what you're responsible for. So here is your exit ticket. This is in the normal format that you guys have been seeing your exit ticket in. It's a Google form. Okay, you'll answer the questions. They're a short answer. You're writing your solution in the form x comma y. So it should look like this. Parentheses, the number, comma, the number, parentheses. Nothing else. If you write something else, it's probably going to come up incorrect. And as I've been telling you, there's only so many possible correct answers we can put. I do look through all of your answers, so if you left out a parentheses, obviously I'm going to give you full credit, but just be mindful that this is how your final answer should look. Okay? So you're going to answer the 4, and then you'll notice that there's this 5th question here. This 5th question is for you to tell me which option you're going to use to send me the work for the problems you solved above. So if you look back at everything I showed you for our modeled example, this should be what I see when you submit your work for the 4 examples you're responsible for today. An answer is no longer going to be enough because our work is becoming too involved, and I need to see what your strategy is to get to that final answer. So you can do that by either sending it to me digitally if you know how to write on the document. You can text me your work. You can send it through PupilPath. You can send it through my Instagram. You can email it to me. And I put other in case you have some other way you would like to send me your work. Okay? So that is this assignment right here. This is for you to show me the work from this exit ticket up here. Okay, so if you click on it, this is the Google form. I know some of you prefer to write right on here, and that's fine, but you do have the other options to complete this assignment. Okay, and again, I should see 4 problems worked out just like this for the 4 problems that are on your exit ticket. If I only get the Google form submission with just the solutions, you are only receiving partial credit because the work is super important for me to assess your understanding of substitution. So I need to see it at this point moving forward. Okay, I hope that was clear. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm going to be available most of the day. You guys have been reaching out at any time you are confused, so please continue to do so and stay safe, guys. Okay, I'll talk to you soon.